This is where we start the process of taking back children. They are our children, given to us by a choice made between two people in love and proof of a miracle. A child made from two people, a woman selfishly giving her body up for 9 months to grow and nurture human life and then to bear excruciating pains to bring that baby to our world. A father, the protector, is a strong individual whose job is to at all costs protect the children from evil and harm. The rules and purpose were established in the Bible. It was a miracle. And we are just letting these demons come to our sanctuaries, criticize our lives, insult our roles as parents, and take our kids, never faltering. Yes, we kick and yell, but at the end, the kids are still gone and life of emptiness begins. That's but more so ungodly. He is pissed. Those kids are for our entrance to heaven and we are giving them away. Not anymore. It's time to square the devil in the face and take back what rightfully belongs to us, something that only our Maker can do, and won't if you show your faith. CPS is stealing children around the world for profits, and your government is with them. The system is rigged. You can be perfect in every way. We all were in our children's eyes. It won't matter. The economically inside kidnappings, you need to understand that. True, there are times when intervention is necessary, but that is not who they target. So stop putting yourself down or someone you know who lost a child to CPS. Stand up or stand them up and fight. Fight like a bear would if the cub is trying to be harmed. Learn from the simplicity of animals, which we are far more advanced and way more backward. The children are the future, not a number on a budget report, not an estimated worth. They are our flesh and blood and made from a miracle. Now that you know what's going on, stand with us and fight so no other children will be used as slaves to the system that we are supposed to control. Shame on us. Time to make it right in your home in God's eyes.
Be prepared to hear what. Please be ready to act, for we need everyone for this one. This is a problem that affects every person in the world because the protection of our children and the sanctity of family is a universal human right. It is time to take a stand and demand that CPS be held accountable for their actions. The corruption has run rancid, and our children, the future of the human race, are being depleted by trafficking and family ancestry being erased. Not to mention the broken hearts and river of tears left behind in the wake of family annihilation. Why? What? Money for the soul of a child. And this is determined by a person inexperienced in more ways than one, yet our system allows them to play God. When the cries of children fill pockets with riches and breaks hearts of family and we the people do nothing, how do we turn our backs on an issue as disgusting as this? No person should sleep comfortably knowing this is happening. Children crying for their families while CPS employees celebrate their cash bonuses, high-fiving in the halls of justice. Think this is a lie? Look at Social Security Act Title IV and Safe Families Act. They promote the caseworkers to quickly steal these children from loving families in record times. And what did these families do so wrong? Most of them nothing. Have you ever noticed the children that die have been called upon as many as 30 times? That's because there is no money in children who have already been spoiled by true abuse or born to true drug addicts. No one pays top dollar for that. The money is in the perfect blonde-haired, blue-eyed good family and upbringing. Yes, instant family. Just add kid for whatever price they ask. No one is out of reach from these demons, and they must be held accountable for their crimes against innocent families. How are judges so freely letting children be erased from the heritage they are entitled to? They inflict on the family the same level of punishment given to a murderer or person society has to eliminate, as they are so wretched existence is no longer favorable. Termination of parental rights is the equivalent to the death penalty in more than one way. Think about that for just a moment. Do you know someone who has lost their children, and if so, is the death penalty a worthy and just punishment? Adults, why do the children then get punished as well? This system is itself cruel and unusual punishment. This is America would treat living people in such heartless ways. For all this to happen, it's corruption from the ground to the White House. That is the truth. We can raise awareness about the injustices done by CPS and fight for the rights of our children.
There are so many of us affected by CPS corruption, yet we isolate ourselves in shame. Not anymore. AbolishCPS.com has been created to show with force what has happened to us is wrong, and we are not remaining silent. We are the parents of those children you have wrongfully taken. We stand to abolish CPS.
Please stop the real abuse.abolishcps.com.
All right. Welcome to the first CPS live, the real story about government kidnapping and what they're doing with our kids. My name is Darren Guay, also known as CPS Punisher on TikTok. And I'm here to speak to you all live about what is going on with CPS and what they are doing with our families. Well, they're tearing our families apart. They're destroying our lives. They're just doing too many things to all of us, and we need state of Maine was actually are the number one leading state in the United States for abuse and neglect. And if you can imagine that this state that is considered vacation land, that's so sparse and spread out, is actually leading the country in abuse and neglect, I don't know how that could even possibly be. Considering the density of the population and all of that. So the national average is this: it's 9.8 kids per 1,000 are considered abused and neglect by the Department of Health and Human Services. Maine not only leads the country in this abuse and neglect, they actually double it. And to me, it just doesn't mean that the CPS agencies are possibly making false accusations to the amount of abuse and neglect. Does that mean that they're padding their numbers? Because I'll be honest, my case had nothing to do with abuse and neglect to my daughter. As a matter of fact, it had nothing to do with my daughter at all. But if you look at what Maine news stations are saying and what they're talking about, it's quite sickening, actually, because it's all alive. But this is what CPS is. It is one big lying, manipulating service. And if you don't believe me, you go ahead and talk to anyone around you that has had their children stolen from CPS. If you can get past the stigma, past all of that BS that everybody has in their head about people that have their kids stolen from CPS, then you will be able to understand and see for yourself what the truth of this is. Because until you put that, you're always going to think, as soon as someone talks about getting their kids taken, or as soon as someone mentions CPS, you're immediately going to say, oh, no, bad people. They're going to walk away from it. And it's terrible. It's terrible being one of these people that CPS is involved in our lives and no one's listening. So, that all being said, I'm going to put up a clip from the main news here, so you can see with yourself firsthand what is going on here, because this is just ridiculous to me.
According to this report, more than 4,200 children.
I'm getting a little computer lag here. Hold on a minute. We'll get this. Yeah, round and round we go. Come on, computer, where are we going to stop? Nobody knows. Here we go. Sorry about this, folks. That's main internet for you. High speed as it comes. Here we go. Here we go. And, well, while we're waiting for this to go ahead and go, I'd like to direct you to my website, abolishcps.com. It's still new and under the makings, but we're getting there with some good stuff on there. We've got apparel that's going to help stop the stigma, and the money that comes from that apparel will go to a fund which will help families in need of legal services in the child protective services cases. Also, I want to direct you to watching every night at 7 o'clock Pacific, 10 o'clock Eastern is the show that I'm on with Vincent Mr. Davis, The Secret. It's a great show to watch and learn from legal side of things. He's one of the best that there is in child protective services as far as the representation legally.
The rate of child abuse and neglect as the worst in the nation, and more than twice the national average. Thanks for joining us.
Well, now, this isn't going as smooth as I was hoping it would. But hopefully, as soon as this thing comes up, we'll get rocking and rolling here. If you have any sort of, you can go ahead and paste it in the chat right here. Right to the right of us, you can see that there's a chat that you're more than welcome to put your comments up in. I welcome those tremendously. Because for this show to even work, we need to have people, and people being you guys watching, to contribute to these stories. And let's see if we can do something about this here. Come on, Mr. News Story. Let's do some work in here. Why wouldn't it freeze up? Well, now. I also have a sour daughter. That's going to be. It's still.
Equals means rate of child abuse and neglect as the work.
Huh. Perfect. Well, now. Huh. Well, it wouldn't go off without a hitch. Without a hitch, right?
Child abuse and neglect as the worst in the nation, and more than twice the national average. Good evening, thanks for joining us. I'm Marissa Butler.
And I'm Greg.
I swear that this is the government trying to step in and manipulate the story here, because we don't want to get this stuff out there for everybody to believe that the state of Maine is actually leading this charge of abuse and neglect, which makes no sense. I mean, you guys of LA, the states of California, Washington, D.C., and New York, and all of these places have less abuse and neglect than the state of Maine? How is this even remotely possible? I don't know. I would have to guess that the only way that this is possible is that the state of Maine is actually,
according to this report,
well, I don't know what the hell's going on here. I'll give it one more go, see what happens. If not, let's move on.
The new study puts Maine's rate of child abuse in.
Oh my gosh. Okay, come on. Well, now, you know what we'll do? Let's take this off for a minute.
Neglect as the worst in the nation and more than twice the national average. Good evening, thanks for joining us. I'm Marissa Butler.
This report, more than 42 children in our state did experience substantial mistreatment by their parents in 2021.
Was recently available. CPS Talk's Brad Rogers joining us live in.
First of five, a new study puts Maine's rate of child abuse and neglect as the worst in the nation and more than twice the national average. Good evening, thanks for joining us. I'm Marissa Butler.
And I'm Greg Rogers. According to this report, more than 4,200 children in our state did experience substantial mistreatment by their parents in 2021. Most recent year available. CBS Talk's Brad Rogers joining us live in Portland with what's behind this, and more importantly, Brad, what can be done to stop it?
Greg, it is just a study that should sicken most people. Maine children being abused and neglected at more than twice the national rate. Now, the Maine Children's Alliance says most of these cases are neglect, but the latest numbers show 4,200 kids are being abused and neglected, with another 34,000 experiencing poverty, which can lead to abuse and neglect.
34,000.
If you look at the primary risk factors for child abuse and neglect in the state, it's substance use disorder, alcohol use, domestic violence.
Every year, Maine kids nearly 250,000 children. What this year's study found is children are being abused and neglected at a rate more than twice the national average, making it the worst in the nation for the maltreatment of children, including a 30% increase between 2017 and 2021.
Increase? What do you think that's from?
Melissa Hackett of the Maine Children's Alliance says first is in support, tell parents at risk of abusing or neglecting their children.
And in our conversations with families, we often hear that they can't access services and supports that they need to have that stability in their home. So when those services aren't available, and then you layer that with the opioid epidemic, with the COVID-19 pandemic, those create additional stressors for families, and then less resources to meet those challenges.
From the State Office of Child and Family Services to treatment facilities, counseling, and parental classes, Maine is understaffed just about everywhere you look.
I mean, I think what we're looking at is an overstressed system.
The Children's Alliance says Maine must invest in strategies and programs and lower the need for child protection intervention.
We are right now working with DHHS to develop a statewide plan for child abuse and neglect prevention.
One idea is to invest in peer support and paraprofessionals, positions that don't require a license, but can be just as useful as a mentor for parents from abuse and neglect.
Again, the Children's Alliance believes giving parents what they need will reduce the harm being done to their children. Governor Mills says we are developing a new comprehensive plan to keep keeping families strong. That includes making sure kids have food and safe housing, and parents have job training, education, child care, and access to treatment. The governor and Children's Alliance hoping to get this comprehensive plan in the hands of lawmakers in the next 2 weeks. We're live in the news.
All right, Brad. Few issues more important than keeping our kids safe. Thank you. And now to.
So there you have it. There you have it, right there. The state of Maine leading the pack, leading the way, leading something here. I mean, don't any of you find something wrong here with this? Like, that's just something that's just situation, correct? I mean, how does the state of Maine make the front steps, the front page of the news as the most abused and neglected? I mean, this is just disgusting. I mean, I just don't understand the way that this is. You know, in my story, I was involved in an incident, and it was just like, regardless of what my incident was, it had nothing to do with a child. It didn't have anything to do with children whatsoever. And I will tell you what, separate my family the way that they did is absolutely disgusting. They're not just doing it to me. That, you know, 9 out of 10 stories that I have are all having nothing to do with abuse of a child. They either have to do with conditions of the living condition, and those means maybe someone missed a doctor's appointment, so they're calling them for medical abuse. But number one, poverty isn't supposed to become an issue in these situations. Poverty is not an issue. Poverty is in your life. Maybe you lost a job. Maybe something happened. But life happens to people. And what this is, they need to fact. You cannot just break apart a family and expect an addict to become out all right. So that's just some food for thought about what they're doing in those aspects. Now let's go to the lying that these caseworkers are getting away with, the stories that they're putting in the narratives. That's what I'm coming up with this show to talk about. We have plenty of shows that you know, they talk about the stories of what everybody's going through. And believe me, I want that. I need that for this story so that we can talk and examine these cases. But I also want to talk about the truth of all of this. Let's get down to the things that people are saying that they're doing, because we don't allow enough exposure for this. This is the other thing. Because people don't realize that don't realize the truth. People don't realize that our government is literally kidnapping children to fund their state budgets. Now, you just saw in that article, in that video, how the increase of 30%. Now, you imagine putting a 30% increase on top of a budget. Boy, you'd look like a superhero, wouldn't you? You would look like an absolute genius of economy, like Governor Mills is trying to do for me. They're going for the increase of taking children. Believe me, they say that they want to help these people and they want to do this, like she just said there. Baloney. They've had more than enough money in their programs in the past 2 years. $5 billion. $5 billion State of Maine Department of Health and Human Services has had on their desk for their budget. Now, where is that money and what is it going for? Think about it. That money that they get from Title IV funding is supposed to be for families and promoting reunification during these processes. And I will tell you right now that this state is not promoting reunification, and nor is any other stretch of the imagination for any other state. If you ask anybody that have a case involved in DHS, CPS, FSS, FCK, whatever the frig they're called, I will guarantee you this, you're not going to find one that actually reunified. You won't. They're a diamond in the rough because they're not playing the same game. Now, the judge tells you one thing, the CPS agents are doing another. They're holding you to these contracts that are not valid. And most of us, that's the other jurisdiction over us because we need a safety plan. People, I will tell you this, first and foremost, if CPS comes to you or comes to your home, shut the door in their face, get a hold of attorneys. That's the first and foremost thing. Here, you are not. In their eyes, you are not. You could be the most perfect person ever to walk the face of this earth. You are an abuser. They've got money to make, people. They've got bonuses to get. They've got quotas to meet. They have a job to do just like you and I, except for their job is to destroying the families in America. You're not going to find it written down on paper. So don't sit here and say, oh, where's he getting this information from? Let's look it up. You're not going to find it. The proof is in the statistics. The proof is in the actions of these people. The proof of what's going on in reunification. Actually, I would love to know what the actual amount of reunification families or reunifying of families that is done out of 100%. How many out of 100% would they say would be reunified? That's what I'd like to know. Out of 100 families, how many do you think would be reunified? Let's ask Alexa. Maybe Alexa knows. Hey, Alexa, if 100 families, out of how many of them are reunified with their children?
From statesman.com. State law requires the agency to reunify children with their families if at all possible, and about 1/3 eventually return to his care.
1/3. 1/3 of children get reunified with their families. 1/3. Can you imagine? So you start the police, they have no business being involved with this because the police are only there as a matter of for safety and making sure that everything's okay. But in reality, let's talk about what it really is. It's a sign of force. It's a sign of here we are so now why can't the department tell them that Child Protective Services is at my door, and they should now come in and use intimidation on their side to get Child Protective Services out of my face, right? Kind of makes sense. Why couldn't we do that? But I'll bet you as a citizen, if you go ahead and try to do that, they're not coming. They're not coming, people. So look at this. Never had any involvement with Child Protective Services. Look at this. Tell me that any of these things didn't just sway your mind. Tell me how. Now I'm going to put on a short video. I got a guest coming up here. This is about my story, about my thing. This is the that I used when I first started this quest to get my daughter back. I was using, and I would send out to people, and I was trying to get everyone to help me services. In my case, I want you all to check this out. It's 4 minutes long, but we come back. I'm gonna have my guest on for us, and we will go from there. So, with no further ado, here we go.
I intend to embarrass this government entity to the very core.
Something needs to be done because it's not right that they can just go ahead and remove your kid. And I mean, our daughter hasn't even been away from us for more than a day or two, or an hour or two, let alone 2 weeks now. And this just isn't right. And the facts prove it.
I will make sure that my daughter has nothing but the best for the remainder of her life. This kid had the world by every aspect that you possibly could. She was given every chance to become whatever she wanted. We talked daily about her becoming an astronaut or a pilot or, something that was just an amazing feat for her. And she knew the sky wasn't just her limit, man, space was. And my word is, the only thing she needs to be the best for the rest of her life is her mother and I. So let's do the right thing.
It gives them the right, some guardian of mine that she's spoken with her maybe once, twice, 3 times that she's
a vendetta, an homage, I don't know what you want to call it, but she's got something under her that's driving her to remove this kid from our lives. Oh, she's inexperienced. Inexperienced is what you're going to toss this to? You're going to give an inexperienced person the keys to my world, my heart, our everything? Inexperienced is people that burn a pizza. Inexperienced is bumping your car into something else, because you're an inexperienced driver. Introduced as a third wheel into a kinship family, which I'm thankful for, but that's not her own. She's not with her own mom and dad. She's not even allowed to have her own things. Kaylee Leedy doesn't allow her to have gifts from us. Kaylee Leedy doesn't allow her to even take home simple food things from us when she visits us. It is brutal. Absolutely brutal not having Nina here in my life right now. I would rather sit behind a jail cell door and wait until that moment that I can be with my family again, and that would at least be something. But to sit here and know that she's the one that's suffering, this punishment isn't in my behalf, this is on hers. Now, I made a mistake. What CPS has done and are doing to our family is tearing us apart. In the framework of the investigation, it states clearly, do not recommend further investigation of this family. So why was it taken to that level? And why was it that my daughter was in such imminent danger that it took 8 days for the department to come and pick up my child after being ruled imminent danger? Tell me this. If you lie, you cheat, you steal, I don't want you in my life. DHS is full of that. I don't want them in my life. Help me get them out of my life. Because these people are people that I don't want to be around. I don't want them to have my daughter, Nina, out of our home and put her in a place that they screened. Do you know how long they screened? They screened her. They screened the family for no more than 2 hours prior. It took me 32 minutes
to pull up the history of this family and find out that they operated under voyeur cameras, had porn websites, had all kinds of things going on there, that their kids that they had living there had witnessed their father get murdered by their mother, their faces stabbed off, they burnt the house down that they were living in, and this is where they put my 3-year-old daughter that was in imminent danger. Think about the things that Nina has seen now that we shadowed her from and sheltered her so that she never had to go through these things. Tell me now who needs to get the sustantion. Tell me now who's committing the acts of neglect and abuse. Tell me now. Tell me now who's going to look at Nina in the face. Tell her that she can trust her dad and her mom, and it was their mistake. I can only count to 4. I can only count to 4. Nina. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nina fell on the floor. Where you fall? Just don't be alone. What do we got to do to that, buddy? Huh? Beaners. Beaners. Hey, Nina. Hey, look it. What we got to do? What we got to do to you, boo-boo? How are we going to fix it? Gonna put the Band-Aid on? Okay. What else do we need to have? Some chocolate? Should we call Mommy and get slushy? You don't think that will help? You want me to call Mama, get slushy? What color? That there was my story that I told when I first got this going on. And I still will play it all the time because that's my daughter. I want to bring on my guest, Candace Edwards, the huge voice, very large voice, but here she is here. She does a lot for this, for advocating for people that are involved in CPS. And, well, there she is. There's Miss Candace right there.
Hey. How's everybody doing?
We're all doing great, Candace. I didn't even realize that you were in that chat room. I would have you in there.
Actually, I came in earlier. Yeah, I came in there earlier.
Right.
And I was trying to get you, but you wasn't responding.
No, I know. I'm sorry about that. Hey, all right. Melissa's in here too. Let's bring in Melissa. All right.
She's from Alabama too.
So there we go. So what is going on in Alabama that brings you two ladies here?
Yeah.
Why don't you go first?
Okay. Well, my situation all is because of the fact some individuals decided to take things into their own hands that they thought that they could take. Pretty much, I was falsely incarcerated, literally kidnapped, abducted, literally being made as a dependent on the state, but the state was able to come in and straight abduct my child. Now, I'm not talking about CPS being called. I'm not talking about the police being called. I'm not even, no reports, nothing. It actually took them 8 days before they contacted me to let me know, hey, we got custody of your child. And the way that they actually did that was because they actually sent me a letter through the mail while I was in the county, said, hey, we have custody of your child. There's nothing you can do about it. Contact us when you get out. We'll come to find out, because them not properly doing their services and letting me know, hey, look, we have your child, and there's a shelter care hearing, then I missed that. Not only did I miss that, I wasn't able to hire an attorney. I wasn't able, to speak to the judge to let the judge know exactly what was going on. All from the very get-go of this whole entire case, even when it comes to the shelter care hearing paperwork, there is, perjury all throughout the paperwork. Like one of the questions on it says, are all parties that are supposed to be at this proceeding here? They say yes. Well, no, because I'm the main one of the whole proceeding. I wasn't there. Neither was her father. So, there's a whole lot of due process issues that go on with there. But not only is there's fraud upon the court, somebody else's social security number in these files. I actually, because of the fact of me getting a protection order put against me by the ones who quote unquote illegally adopted my daughter, I went online to see, if there's any other cases against me, just, curiousness. Well, come to find out, there's been a case that's been open on me since 2003. Come to find out, it was the legitimation. It was actually supposed to be an adoption of my adoption when I was 15 years old by the guy that was supposed to be adopting me. However, they don't do the adoption, they do a legitimation. A legitimation, that is when you've had a blood test done between the father and the child, and the father wants to be added to the birth certificate. Well, this isn't my biological father. They say that I actually live in Talladega. It was either Talladega or Calhoun County. They said that I was actually born in. However, my New York birth certificate is in these files. So that whole situation there is fraud. So you're pretty much looking at the poisonous tree doctrine. Then I've got another little situation that's been going on since 2017, and all this comes down to pretty much retaliation, racketeering. There's organized crime going on over here. That's something I do want to bring up, Darren, when she gets done telling, because I feel like everybody needs to be aware of some things that are going on. I found I believe what is the head of this whole little situation with CPS, and it's organized crime complete. I mapped it out.
I got some words I'll tell you about that too from our show last night. But Melissa, what's going on with you and what's CPS with you? What have they done? What's their corruption destroying your family?
Well, 2 years ago, we moved to the state of Alabama from Florida, where I resided with my fiance, my son, my daughter. And my daughter's been kind of a problem child, 16 going on 30, has acted out for years. Most of her problems come from her biological father's house, where I've tried to step in and help, and she likes to retaliate against me for it. We moved into Alabama. My fiance at the time was charged with a crime to where he has to register in all the different states. He has to essentially have a lifetime supervision. And we moved here with the permission of the state, the court, the DHR, everyone approved us living here as a family. We lived here for a year and a half with absolutely zero issues. My daughter was involved in a CPS case in Michigan at her dad's house. Michigan ordered that I bring her back here and that I put her on services and that I make her get the kind of help she needs. So I agree with Michigan CPS to bring her down here and to do those things for her. So I did. And I tried to get her to comply, which, she's 16. She knows best and nothing I say counts.
Right.
So I approached the court and I said, hey, Your Honor, is there any way we can do probation for my daughter for her acting out so that I can try to save my daughter from being a statistic in a child trafficking ring? Because my daughter was looking up strange men, trying to meet up with anyone and everyone from counties away. I had people showing up under aliases, fake plates, all kinds of stuff, having literally the predators of Alabama arrested out of my own driveway. So I approached the court to help calm my daughter's actions. And the judge says, yes, we'll put her on a CHINS petition, which is a child in need of services. And we willingly enter into this CHINS petition to benefit my daughter. And what they have done since then is my children have been sitting in foster care now for over 14 months.
Wow.
They kept telling us that me and my husband had to fight this together, that we had to be a family in order to be stable, to get the children home. And we just finally had our first adjudication to determine whether the children are even dependent, ever. And that was held 2 weeks ago. The judge still hasn't given a decision, but now they're making the arguments that because we didn't divide up our household, scattered to the four corners of the world, that makes me a bad parent. Therefore, they don't need to make reasonable efforts to reunify. Instead, they would rather move to adopt my children to the foster placements that they're in. But yet DHR themselves even gave testimony to the fact that there was no harm in our house, that there is no risk of harm by my husband. There's no risk of harm by me. They stated that we are financially and physically fit. But the judge ain't going to hear it because the judge don't like me, because my case started with a corrupt DHR director who the judge was the DHR attorney for our county.
What?
And yes, the judge that sits on our case represented this county's DHR for 10 years. He worked directly hand in hand with the woman who brought the complaint against us. They used a doctor to do a psychological evaluation, who in this state, he is notorious for division of families. And that is a doctor by the name of Dr. Carney. He destroys families all over Alabama for financial gain. And I have a complaint sitting with the Board of Psychology where they have been slow playing it for almost 2 years now because they don't want to bring sanction against him because he's one of their biggest sources of revenue for the state.
Of course.
And the judge does whatever DHR says. The bias has been proven. The judge even lied on record in further proving his bias. I recorded the entire hearing. I transcribed it, and I literally can show time after time. And I offered proof to the judge, proving how we were in the right. And the judge not only failed to hear it, he directly called me a liar on the stand. So the chance of returning our children home now that they've meeting the burden of proof for the time statute, and the reason it took so long to hold the adjudication is almost a year ago, the judge put out an order stating that he refused to hold any court hearings.
Really? Do you?
So that's kind of the story.
Now you just said that it was 14 months until you heard anything. So your kid sat in limbo for 14 months before your first adjudication.
Yes. And we still have not gotten an answer back for that.
So I'm going to tell you this, only because I'm on that The Secret with Mr. Davis. I'm pretty sure that California state law is if you haven't been adjudicated in 12 months, then the case is thrown out. Do you know anything? I don't know about Alabama law, and I'm not sure.
Well, so in California falls under a different appellate court than Alabama. Yep. And something to do with that difference in the court, that 12-month statute doesn't apply here. Instead, here in the state of Alabama, they consider that failure to reunify after 12 months constitutes abandonment of child and the further separation of bond of family. But it wasn't my fault we didn't get to go to court. The judge directly put out an order refusing to go to court. He denied me legal counsel, knowing that we were a fixed income family, to the point that my ex, my daughter's father, actually took a mortgage against his house just so that we could retain the legal counsel to further fight this.
Wow. So if the judge, what was this order? What was his order based on? What was this order called that this judge put out so that you guys would not have court? Was it labeled?
So a year ago, literally a year ago, my daughter ran away from a bad group home. My daughter was beaten while in a secured high-risk facility called Laurel Oaks. And there's multiple lawsuits pending against Laurel Oaks because of their failure to care. My daughter was beaten to the point that she had an aneurysm in her head that ruptured. She fled from the facility in fear of her life and safety. She went to Michigan, which is where her dad was. And at the time she fled there, he held sole Michigan custody. And Michigan was our custodial home state.
Okay.
You know, it has never been relinquished to Alabama. So by all letter of jurisdiction, his jurisdictional rights were in the state of Michigan. He had legal custody. She had the right to go to him. It was even kind of set up by the director from the CPS for her to get away because they didn't want her. They actually just wanted the younger two children because they're the innocents. They're the adoptable children. Yep. Prior to my daughter being born, my youngest daughter, who is now 15 months of age, prior to her being born, my the family that current placement for her had already filled out the adoption paperwork for her.
Wow.
And she hadn't even been born yet. When she was born, I was thrown into the hospital 1 hour after she was born.
Now, how did they gain access to, how were they gaining access to this? Because you were already involved in a case? Is that what was going on there?
Well, it's not a ground that they're supposed to use because it is a reunification case, but it is the ground that they used.
Wow.
And the entire case against me is all made on the recommendation of a doctor that has never met anyone other than my daughter. And my daughter stated nothing bad about me. She just stated that she had traumas in her history.
Right.
But she did clearly state that they were not my fault, not the fault of my husband. And the doctor still said that because my husband has restrictions, that he thinks every child should be removed without meeting us. He placed judgment in violation of his ethics. And the Board of Psychology wants to do nothing about it.
Of course they do. What was your reason? What was their imminent danger? What was their imminent danger when they came to your house and took your children?
None. They did it just because the doctor recommended it. That's what they stated at the adjudication, or at the shelter hearing, the 72-hour hearing that they held. Yep. They said the woman, she's been fired from DHR. She no longer works there, but she was the second in command at that DHR. She stated 9 different times on the record, we're doing this because Dr. Carney recommended it. And she stated it in a way that even confused the judge. And the judge turned around and says, wait a minute. You want me to do an emergency removal from a home with the intent to reunify, and it took you 3 months to remove them under an emergency basis? And she answered yes.
Wow.
So just by the definition of what emergency is in the DHR CAN procedure handbook, that should have never been upheld, because an emergency is something that is a life or death danger that has to be handled within a 72-hour period, not 3 months.
Right. It's supposed to, like my case, mine was 9 days before they finally came and got. So, like, yeah, where's the imminent danger? There's something coming to aid this. It should be an emergency.
Well, they never alleged physical harm. They never alleged sexual harm. They never alleged environmental harm. And they still don't. The biggest complaint they have against my house is I have a pot and pan rack that hangs on the wall that they wanted me to put a baby gate in front of my kitchen.
Yep. Wow.
So what are they? The other part of the case is that the lady who started the whole case against us, the DHR director, who worked with the judge hand in hand for in excess of 10 years. She was later, months later, she ended up having her position terminated due to tampering with files and falsification of documentation on another case other than mine. The only reason I was able to find out about it is the law firm that I had representing me at that time. The attorney had direct firsthand knowledge of what was doing.
Wow. Jeez. So this lady doesn't work there anymore. She's not even a part of this. The judge, two peas in a pod, because they had been working together previously as the judge was an attorney.
Oh, it's even worse than that, because the attorney for DHR was college buddies with the judge.
Oh, of course.
And the guardian ad litem has direct relation to the judge.
As far as direct relation, what do you mean?
Cousin.
There's a cousin of the judge. Okay. Wow. So this corruption, like, I do not know how any person could not be sitting here that had, let's say, their point of, the way that they say CPS, these parents are bad or whatever. You've just sat there and gave 1,000,001 reasons why this is wrong. This lacks due process. This lacks transparency. This lacks all of these things. And everybody's still going to look at you and say, oh, they have problems with CPS. They must be bad people. Wrong to your children. And the state has still put their big head in here and started a fake investigation on what? Like, what are they spending?
I asked for help for my daughter.
Right. So
I asked for my daughter to be all that she could be.
Right. You asking as a responsible parent, going out and for your daughter, who is kind of going a little bit wild at the time, like most teenagers do, to help ground her a little bit, and you get punished for it. Now, what does that say? And not only that, you get run through the ringer like you are a terrible, horrible person. Like the things that they're putting you through and saying about you, and all of this is just awful. It's freaking terrible. And now you've abandoned.
Essentially, yes. By the statutes of the law, I've abandoned my kids, but yet they have not said anything bad about me. They called me fit. The worst thing they said is I failed to provide the one registration for the one vehicle because honestly I had lost it. And the house that I was currently paying on, I didn't show them the deed proving that I owned it free and clear yet.
Why does that matter? Business. You don't need to show them your deed to your house because poverty and living conditions aren't supposed to matter in these situations.
Well, the biggest thing I think behind my family and why they're attacking my family the way they were, one, CPS is still currently getting my daughter's Social Security check, even though she has not been in the system in over a year.
Right.
They're getting her check for $800 a month. My daughter is also entitled to $200,000 lawsuit settlement when she.
Biscuit. Come back. Come back. Come back. Come on. Come on, Miss. Come on, Melissa. I mean, I don't know where Melissa went. If I see my clock ticking. She's frozen. Like, are you hearing how corrupt this system is? And she's absolutely right. She's hit the nail on the head. Her daughter has a Social Security check that's coming through there. They are taking that Social Security from that child. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. What's going on here? This is no way for the number one protector of our children to be conducting business of our children. This is absolute insanity for any persons out there that are watching this. I need you to understand that the only thing you can do now is vote. Oh, here she is. She's back. All right, there she is. Melissa, we got you now. So you were saying that your daughter gets a Social Security check and she's got a lump sum coming, right?
Yes, and over and above that, my son is currently still in the system. He gets a $4,000 survivor's benefit off of his father who is deceased. And my other daughter who is in the system receives a check. So they're getting in excess of $5,000 a month with their hand stuck out for the $200,000. My daughter several times came back to try to be re-involved in the whole case so that we could try to get the hearings held and get the children home within a timely fashion. And DHR directly turned her away and sent her back to Michigan and failed to tell the judge that.
Wow.
The bad thing is, in my case, DHR is lying to the judge so bad that he doesn't know how bad they're lying to him, and I'm the one being condemned for it. And I have proof of the lies. I have recordings. I have documents. I have all of it.
Wow, that's insanity. Absolute insanity.
Hi, Candace.
Jesus. There's Candace. She's back.
Yeah.
Candace, what do you say about this? What do you say about? No, you're all right. What do you say about her story?
I've known Melissa for quite some time. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so I've known Melissa quite some time. It is crazy. It is beyond anything that I know that they can sit here and want. Her 17-year-old daughter, they still want her, but she's grown and she's married.
Wow.
Yes, my daughter is married.
My mind. But look, I want y'all to realize something, because everybody needs to hear this today. I don't care how many people see this. You know, when you see this, please share. Please, I mean, as far as you can go, because all parents need to know this. All counties, all states, every one of them, they all have something that is called, or similar to, the Children's Policy Committee. Go on their websites, look at who are on their board, who's on the members of their board. Okay, take that, follow that website. Look who else, like who they're connected to. You'll notice that they'll say the Children's Trust Fund. Go on there and look at their boards and see that they are actually connected to the Children's Global Alliance. Y'all, that is the human trafficking ring. Period. That's your judges, your probation officers, your doctors, your nurses, DHR workers. And the only reason why I know this is because my case is caught up in the middle of it. See, I was going to jump to the legislature and be like, okay, you know, I want to change things from up there. But I realized that my one little bit voice ain't going to change things up there. So I thought, you know what, let me go within my community. Since I am a veteran of the United States military, okay, I'm somebody that is supposed to be, you know, held somewhere high within our community, within our county, considering I served right here in Gadsden, Alabama. So I was like, okay, let me go into my community. I start looking at the committees. The first thing I see is the Children's Policy Committee. I get on there and I look on the website, and let me tell you who's on the website. You've got Judge Joe F. Neighbors Jr. He's the chairman of Etowah County Children's Policy Committee. You have Tiffany Smith, who is a DHR worker. She is the vice chairman of Etowah County Children's Policy Committee. Okay. You have Brittany Studdard, who was my social worker of my case, along with my judges already on this same committee. She's the secretary of this committee. Then you have Will Clay, who's another judge on my case, is also in this committee. So y'all need to take this to heart. Listen to what I'm saying, because these committees, they make them look like it's something good for everybody, but it is not. They are coming together, coming up with ways of how they want to take our children.
Right. And that's why
that is on everything I love.
That's why people like Melissa, her kids are stuck in that system, because they're getting checks that are funding this system. They're getting money from them, even though they've done nothing wrong. There's no chance in hell that she's going to get her family back with reunification, because that's, like she said, that's a free $5,000 a month that these groups are taking. And it's not fair, and it's not right. And it just, this is terrible.
Well, and not only that,
and then,
in violation of our own laws, not only are they taking my children's dependency money, they are also charging me child support and charging the father child support. They're only supposed to take one or the other,
That's
not
human
both.
trafficking.
Wow.
That's human trafficking. That's against the law. That's unconstitutional.
This is all
I'm
this.
gonna say it right here, right now, so everybody can hear me. Hear my loud mouth. I'm on it today, guys.
All unconstitutional what they're doing.
How many parents actually know? Hold on, Darren. I got one for you. Since we're always having these little arguments on all these CPS stories about parents who are on drugs or who have, what is it? Possession of them. There you go. That's the word I'm looking for. How many of you know that Blake versus the United States was just actually here in Supreme Court that is unconstitutional for a possession charge?
Yeah.
You're not hurting anybody. There's no corpus delicti.
Yeah.
No case. No crime.
Well, it's even better is I have this right here. Hold on.
Well, I felt like our parents needed to know that because they're railroading our parents out there.
Right. They're doing, listen.
You know this just like I do.
Yep. The war against drugs was just a way for them to get inside of people's families. It's a way for them to access the children, a way for them to access everything. That's what that was all about. Never had anything to do with helping the up.
Oh, well, you know what? Kids. Here's you one, Darren. As far as the courts, how they go, think about the whole jurisdiction thing. Let me tell you something. When you go to court and they first say, at first, they be like, Darren Gway, are you, president, whatever he says?
Yep.
When you say yes, that you hear, you then take the shoes of that quote unquote fictitious character that they like to play around in these little courts, okay? That's when you take the shoes. You messed up when you say that. You can sit there and say that I'm the beneficiary of the acting agent. That's the jurisdiction. And I'm going to tell you like this. When you're born, that is not firsthand knowledge. Just because you have a piece of paper and a card that says your name is Darren whatever Gway, I'm not going to say your middle because I do know it, but I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
But Darren Gway, okay? Just because your parents say that, that doesn't mean that that's firsthand knowledge. You only know that because you're being told that.
Right.
That's for all cases. I don't care if it's criminal or if it's whatever. Better take that knowledge and run with it.
Yep.
All day, every day.
Listen, there's some people need to get educated in this stuff because that's the only way to stop. Like that's the only way that people are going to start. Because number one, we have to change the stigma of what, like all of us know what the stigma is because we're all in it. But, like as soon as you say CPS, oh, you're a bad person. Like that's where it needs to stop. Because people need to realize that you're not just being a lousy your kid. You're screaming that we're constitutionally being destroyed and decimated. Our rights are being just crushed. Who cares? No one cares to listen to it.
I'm going to tell you this much. I talked to my sister yesterday. She's the one that is up underneath me, okay? She's not the youngest, but however, she's not the oldest I am. There's 5 of us. Anyways, to this day, she still thinks that my child was rightfully taken from me. She won't listen to anything that I have to say whatsoever. Yep. But it's all because of the guises of DHR being who they are and using the powers that they have. Exactly. Them motherfuckers, they stole my child. Period. I don't give a damn who you are. It takes 24 to 48 hours before you can report a missing person. They took 8 days before they contacted me. That's kidnapping. That's stealing. That's abduction.
They're supposed to be in front of a judge in 72 hours with that solution.
Yeah, but you know what? I was falsely arrested over there in Randolph County.
What was that?
The whole retaliation. That's where all this comes in.
In my case, one of the things that they used against me at the adjudication hearing, one of the things that the judge called me a liar on, is back in 2009, I had a family case, and I didn't know then what I do now about family law and how corrupt the system could be. And I was charged with child abuse. And the charge should have never have went through the courts the way it did, because I was charged and found guilty of child abuse because I did not buy my son McDonald's while we were getting a courtesy ride back home from a police officer in a sheriff's car. And when I explained that to the judge here during the adjudication hearing and I offered to show him proof of it, he literally sat there, turned around, and told me I was a liar trying to manipulate the court.
Yep. And Candace, I wanted to tell you this. I brought this up with Mr. Davis about the question of RICO. And you know what they're saying in the courts? That CPS has nothing to do with business or mafia or things like that. That's exactly what Mr. Davis means.
Bullshit.
Yep,
I don't give a fuck what they say. That shit is organized crime. It is RICO. It is organized
listen,
crime.
I am telling you what the courts are telling them when they try to file these things. That's what they're saying. And they're denying the RICO.
You know, like I know, this is organized crime. And look, listen to me. I just pointed out where it's organized crime. It's all organized.
You're not trying to explain to me. You're not trying to. The courts have said to it, or and that's it. It's like what we're trying to figure out another way to fight it. It's clearly organized crime. Starts right from the gates. Look, my child was literally selected. We had no anything involved with CPS ever whatsoever, but yet they were up and she was born coming up like, oh, we want to come home and check your, make sure we never had any involvement. They were sitting and waiting because she was a beautiful brown hair, blue-eyed baby. And they were waiting because that was going to be, and they come right into our lives and they walked right in, they snatched our kid. They told our cousins a bunch of lies about them. So now our cousins who has our baby doesn't talk to us anymore. They think that we're the worst people on the face of this earth and of CPS and what they've done. That's all. How is that not organized crime? How is that not? How is that not? Like, that's it.
Darren, it's very much organized crime. It's very much organized crime. At the end of the day, we all need to realize that they are tearing our families apart, and the only way we will correct what is going on in each and every country, not just America, but all countries, if we as families come together. We need to abolish this CPS, HHS system, DHR, whatever the fuck y'all want to call it, excuse the language, abolish it completely and rebuild it. That's the only way we're going to fix anything. And it needs to be geared towards families. It doesn't matter if they're on welfare or not welfare. We all, as individuals, as family units, should have equal opportunity as the next family.
They need to be
and until we fix that, we will not fix this country.
Right, just a little bit here and there, not refix, not that, like,
completely.
Right,
all
completely
orders, rules, whatever.
Yep, everything's gone.
You know, like I know.
Yep. No, that's why on my site, abolishcps.com, we have right on there the like the act that we're trying to push through. Like we're just learning about this legal system and how to push laws and all that stuff. And through time, if people help us out and everything, we'll get there. But that's just it. That's what we've got to do.
I don't see how they can't say that DHR is a business for profit, because they do not file their tax returns as a nonprofit, and they do not file their tax returns as a government organization. They file them as a private corporation in representation as a third party to the government, which in itself is a company for profit.
Yep, that's it. Facts.
Well, I'm just saying, our police stations are also a company for profit as well. It's all human trafficking. That's what they are doing. Everybody needs to open their eyes and realize what it is that they're doing.
There's government corruption everywhere. Obviously, like let's stick with the CPS topic though. Like, let's just stay in that realm, because we know that corruption flows all the way through. Stuff CPS.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely.
CPS for sure is a for-profit. How are they? Answer this. How is it not that they are paying someone else to take your
is
child
paper.
and then pay for your child by someone else. Now you're paying child support plus these people. It's ridiculous.
Well, and not to mention all the money that they bill off of our Medicaid and insurance systems. Every time they do a home visit, it's $150 for Medicaid.
Exactly.
Well, hey, Melissa, listen to this. Do you know who Luana is?
No.
Okay, so she's a parent that's up there in Michigan with John. Okay, since your case deals with Michigan, felt the need to kind of share this with you. They filled out the I want to say it's 99 or 990 for the organizations or whatever, and it showed like all their income and everything. Just for Michigan alone, they had, I believe, it was over $2 million just in things that they had just for the children itself. And it wasn't for the kids. It's like just the money, the stuff that they're moving. And I'll tell you this much. If you take that information and go to the state checkbook, I bet you'll find out some of that money that's missing that ain't even on them forms.
Yep.
Actually, what you'll find in the state of Michigan, and I know this from dealing with Michigan's CPS system is so financially corrupt because I spent quite a bit of time fighting with them. Hence, my history follows me. Not because I'm a bad parent, but because I defend the rights of my children and my own personal rights. What a worker told me in Michigan was that CPS, for every day your child is in care, the individual worker receives a $3.30 per day supervision fee for every day your child's in care. The facility itself receives a $35 fee. At the point they terminate your rights, there is a $10,000 grant from the state that goes to the department to, quote, allocate families to adopt your child. And then between state and federal funding, they get another $25,000 off the adoption.
Wow, that is insanity. And that's word about from that person. Word about from a former employee of DHS.
And the other thing is, even down here with this case here, I had a worker, and she came to me the day before they literally stole my case from her. And she told me, she says, Melissa, she says, I've looked up everything you've told me. She says, you're 100% right. She says, everything you need to beat your case is in your file. She says, if I'm not at court, make sure I'm there. She says, because the proof that you guys are legally allowed to live there as a family and be happy in life. She says, it's all in your files. She says, they're stealing the case from me because I wrote positive things about you. And she literally cried in my front yard telling me these things.
Wow.
And she told me that even in their own paperwork, there is no grounds for my children to be in care. She says, at the absolute worst, my children to be in home with services would be the most they should be allowed to do. And when we went to court, they used her against me. They had her state that she'd been my caseworker for in excess of a year when she hadn't. She had only been my caseworker for about 4 months. Wow. But she still could not say anything harmful against me. But I'm sure when I get the judge's opinion next week, we'll hear what a horrible person he really thinks I am.
Yep, that's a fact. That's a fact. Well, ladies, I would love to continue this on, but we're way over our hour, which I'm trying tomorrow. If you guys want to come back on, that's what I'm shooting for. You guys are down with that? I'd love to bring you back up here and continue with this. But as far as today goes, I'm going to go ahead and say, listen here, people, and it's not going anywhere. So you need to stand up and fight with us, and let's bring this thing to the front burner here so we can get it solved. So for everybody out there, all tomorrow, 1 o'clock, And thank you all for checking out this first episode.